Update: after 5 years, long-distance girlfriend has close male friend who likes her. I'm wondering what to do. 5 years ago, my girlfriend was really close with this guy. It made me feel terrible. I brought it up with her and here's what happened. I brought up the topic and she was super cool about it. She was surprised and she said that it was just friendship on her side. However, she went up to the guy and asked him if he saw things the same way. He said he didn't. He was actually into her. So, she told him that she's with me and that they need to stop hanging out. It was never an issue after that. We still met him at a few parties, but it didn't make me feel bad at all. Reading the old post made me smile. It felt like a big issue back then, but she solved it so swiftly. I'm really thankful to her. We've had the most wonderful relationship since then, and even before then. We're 33 years old now and still going strong together. We moved in together a couple of years ago and it's been amazing living together, traveling together, being together all the time. She's still so sweet. I love her with the bottom of my heart, and it's obvious she loves me too. You never know how these things will turn out, but ours is a story to fill your hearts with hope and love. P.S. Now I'll delete the password to this throwaway and any reference to it on my computer. It feels nice to close the loop. One of the commentators on the story. I feel like it's really interesting to note that someone in the original comments section called what was going on emotionally cheating basically because the friend was a platonic support system for her. That's not what emotional cheating is. Otherwise my bisexual self would be constantly cheating on my husband because every single one of my friends is a potential romantic interest. Friends provide support, emotional support. The idea that you can only receive emotional support from your spouse or partner is incredibly hard to live with. We are social beings, and if the only person you can lean on is your spouse, that really limits options if you're going through a time when your spouse needs to lean on you, and it would be unfair to lean back. Look up the ring circle of venting if you don't know what kind of situation would call for this. Essentially, we all need friends. It sucks that OpsGF had found a friend with an ulterior motive, but we should all be open to the idea that friends do come in all shapes and sizes and are incredibly valuable for us. Your spouse cannot be expected to always provide the brunt of emotional support one may need. It's unfair and unrealistic. Another response to the story. Good to hear, man. I find it strange how naive some people can be when it comes to this stuff. I made it quite clear I was interested in a girl I worked with some time ago, and when we finally hooked up, a guy we both hung out with said finally, and she had absolutely no clue what he meant by that. He said it was painfully obvious I was into her, and she was genuinely shocked. Meanwhile she had been saying how annoying it is when guys don't make the first move. Funny how that works. Anyway, happy to hear you guys are going strong and things are working out. I love looking back at issues I had in the past and laughing at how insignificant they really were. Second story. My husband's best friend seems to be attracted to me and I don't know what to do. My husband's best friend has been behaving strangely around me lately. He moved to a major city and is single after he was the other man in his previous relationship. He was the best man at me and my husband's wedding, considered a very close friend of ours, and has a lot in common with us. Recently we visited this large city to see family and have gone out with him together multiple times. However, every time we are all together it seems like he stares at me when he's talking, no one else. We could both talk for days. I listen to his problems and we are both intellectually attuned with one another, prompting good conversation. He will talk about his dating life and almost verbatim say he wants someone like me in terms of personality, physical traits, and spirituality. Not to mention he's admitted that he's jealous that we're married and he's not. He also will put down my husband a bit but raise me up as if I know exactly what he wants. At first I thought this was just a guy thing, but now I'm beginning to think differently. The other night me, my husband, and the friend were sitting together at the dinner table. Friend looks at me after a story about visiting us and says, Besides, I wanted to see you. My husband then said, you mean US, which the friend then replied, yeah, you as in plural. The whole thing seemed sketchy. I'm happily married to my husband and it feels like this friend is making it awkward almost. I love him as a friend but fear he sees it differently. He understands we're married and, I would hope, doesn't want to tarnish that. I know I'm not crazy for feeling uncomfortable at all with these subtle hints. We are all going on a boat trip this weekend and I'm concerned about him embarrassing me further, making things awkward. One of the commentators on the story. You both need to talk about it and be on the same page, and then nip this shit in the bud. I went through something very similar. In my opinion, you should actually both say something to him. If just your husband says something that might show you guys whether or not this guy is truly a friend. He might be on good behavior for a bit, but if he isn't a good friend, this behavior will come out again eventually. Plus, if just your husband says something to him, the guy will most likely have a spot in the back of his brain telling him your husband is jealous because a part of you is secretly liking him back. However, if you both talk to him, you can allow your husband to stand up for the respect he is due from his friend, and you can stand up for yourself and your desire to not be ogled or leered at by someone that isn't your husband and someone you have no interest in. It's important for someone to know that you aren't interested in them, rather than the whole "I have a boyfriend, husband" line. Because the latter indicates that if the boyfriend or husband weren't around, you might be open to the other guy, which means he just needs to work at you over time. That's how some people think. Another response to the story. It's worth noting that all he's done so far is give you bad vibes. I definitely believe you should trust your gut, but until he actually steps over the line, this doesn't have to be a big blow up. You mentioned that he's a good conversationalist and you two are in tune with each other. I'd suggest being a little less in tune with him moving forward. Bring your husband into the middle of conversations, rather than have the convo go back and forth directly between you and your friend. You can be subtle about this, but changing the dynamic so he doesn't have that direct connection to you might discourage whatever is happening in his head. Also, you can call out the staring. A nonchalant comment about it, "Hey friend, do I have something on my face? You keep staring at me," can let him know that he's being really obvious. If he's just getting too attached in his own head following some tough breakups, you should be able to redirect him and spare everyone the conflict of a confrontation. If he's the type to actually pursue his friend's wife, you'll be giving him enough rope to hang himself with when he eventually fucks up. Another response to the story. First, when he puts down your husband, you stop that and stand up for your man. Second, you're not crazy, he definitely is trying to bang. Third, tell your husband and go no contact with the friend and no boat trip. You said he was the other guy, so he knows exactly what he's doing. Every interaction with you is a trial balloon, seeing how far he can push boundaries. You not addressing or stopping this will only make him more bold, and he'll think you're into it and he's wearing you down. This is a game to him, but it's your life. This guy has no respect for your marriage or husband, or you. Another response to the story. My husband has a few friends that are a little like this. They stay well in line because I bring my husband into the conversation all the time. In very complimentary ways. As soon as he takes the direction towards uncomfortableville. It's that easy. I've learned to do this because I work around men constantly, but I'm married to the best one. I want them all to know I know it. It's also a kind of negative reinforcement. If he doesn't want to hear something nice about your husband, he has to stop dropping subtle improprieties. If this didn't work, I'd ignore the friend entirely. But I don't see them much, and I enjoy conversation with some of them on my terms. Additionally, my husband's the type who thinks it's great when his friends are a little jealous that he's with me, lol. We talk about it. If he ever told me something bugged him about any of them talking to me, that's the end of that. Next story. My fiance's friend called me a bitch who's controlling him because he found out he's not in our wedding, to be the bigger person or not. My fiancé's friend have been friends for 11 years and found out one day when he was drunk that he was not going to be in our wedding from a mutual friend who was told he was going to be asked to be in it. This friend group of my fiancé's has hung out since high school and remained friends. Some closer to others, there's quite a few guys. When it came time to decide on the party, my fiancé had decided to not include 4 of them because his wedding party is already huge and he needed to include some college friends too. He said he and this friend were never close or hung out alone compared to his friendships with the other guys, but he still planned to have him at the first table next to us. A side note, this group of guys and us girlfriends have all gotten super close since graduating college and go on vacations together, see each other almost every weekend etc. My fiancé and I have been together for 4 years. We were about to take engagement pictures and received 3 long messages from this friend saying pretty much, "My girlfriend and I will not be attending this wedding as the outsiders. You should hear it from me first. Funny how you let your bitch control your life. You got a long life to live. This is comical, we are done. Just any longer with a whole lot more bullshit." My fiancé sent a message back saying pretty much, "You do you. We didn't do anything wrong and my fiancé is not the reason you weren't chosen." The friend sent back a couple messages of drunk rambling that we didn't even read. Now the aftermath has been frustrating. This friend never reached out and said to other friends that he stands by what he said. I guess he's entitled to that. But our friend group that we've built such a bond with has been split. When they hang out with him we cannot attend and the other way around. I'm sick of it, I feel like I'm in damn high school. It's been 3 months of this and it's miserable. We understand our friends can't do anything about it and if it were up to them it wouldn't be this way. My fiancé says he doesn't want to reach out, rightfully so, but is also frustrated with the situation. I'm such a fix-it-now type person that every day I just want to message this guy and say I know we have differences but let's put them aside so our friends aren't caught in the middle and we can all hang out. But I can't because it's going against my fiancé. My fiancé is frustrated that his other friends are okay with this situation and the immaturity of it all, and that they won't address this guy or stick up for us and tell him he should just apologize. But we also get there stuck in the middle and it can't be put on them. We are at a loss of what to do. How would you handle this situation? Leave it be. Should my fiancé be the bigger person and reach out to just be able to be in the same room again? A life like this forever will suck. And this friend group is not going anywhere. We don't want to be friends with this guy but just tolerate so this doesn't have to be this way. One of the commentators on the story. Emo, the people that are signing with this churlish ape of a man are not real friends. Your wedding is about you and your fiancé, not this guy and his feelings. It's comical to me that he thinks he gets to dictate when and how he's included in a wedding that he isn't paying for and isn't his. He basically said that if he's not centered at your own wedding, he won't be attending and honestly, good riddance. I see no need to be the bigger person because you did nothing wrong. Your fiancé made the decision and you're being punished with, quite frankly, a sexist stereotype. If anyone should apologize, he should apologize to you. If he thinks calling his friend's future wife a B is going to get him into the wedding party, then bless his heart to heaven cause he ain't getting there with his brain. It's probably for the best that this booze-addled nincompoop is not attending anyway. Another response to the story. I think this is a good opportunity for you to grow a little bit and realize that sometimes some problems don't need to be fixed. You shouldn't sacrifice your dignity and self-worth to avoid awkwardness or confrontation. It's time to stand up for yourself and not back down on this. Your fiancé is absolutely right. Let the friends who side with this knob enjoy their time together, and focus on the more mature friends who has sided with you. Another response to the story. What I would do is nothing at all. Hang out with the friends who want to hang out. Don't bring up the topic and don't engage if it's brought up by someone else. I'm much more patient than I used to be, so this is how I'd handle it now and it works beautifully. People sort themselves according to their tolerance for bullshit. Some want none, some want lots. I want none. I'd stomp around my living room and complain to my fiancé about it now and again, but that's it. I wouldn't even discuss it with anyone else. When I was in my 20s, I probably would have tried to fix it somehow. I've literally never actually fixed a mess like that, only made it worse by trying. Everyone will be fine and the people who need to move on will do so eventually. Good luck. It's really difficult to let this kind of thing go, but in general, someone who's calling you a controlling bitch, and throwing a tantrum for longer than a few hours will not have their mind or behavior changed by you. That guy doesn't want to feel good. He wants to hate and blame someone right now. Probably has little to do with your upcoming wedding. Another response to the story. I disagree. People who say your friend group is terrible and if they're not siding with you then they're bad friends. I've been in multiple situations where two close friends got into a terrible fight. The rest of our friend group did the same as what your friends did. Several reasons why both persons were ranting to us with different paws. The story was the same but the emotional feelings behind each person were all extremely valid that we found it hard to say it was all one person's fault, not our fight to resolve. Give advice okay, but we can't fix it. If our friend group chose sides in a fight that big, it would be a permanent split. There's no coming back from that, or very difficult. People's perspectives are further anchored by their friends' support, and the idea of apologizing, compromising and being the bigger person is harder when everyone is telling you that you're right and the other person is wrong. This isn't advice or anything. I'm just saying sometimes it's best when friends don't get involved and let the two people figure it out themselves. Next story. I accidentally made my dad cry during our huge fight. What should I do? We fought about my older brother Matt. My dad and him have always fought even when we were kids and it has caused a lot of tension in this family. There's 3 of us. Their personalities clash a lot and they are both very stubborn, strong-headed people. My dad is a CEO who can be controlling and an asshole, and Matt sometimes does stupid stuff on purpose. I am close with both Matt and my dad, but it is so tiring being in the middle of so much conflict and fighting. Matt is going to college in a few weeks. Tonight my dad and him got in a fight over something. I don't even know what. There was so much yelling and shouting and Matt ended up packing his bag and is now staying at his friend's house until his school starts. His friend lives over 45 minutes away, so I probably won't even get to see him again or say goodbye or hang out. I feel heartbroken. I'm angry at my dad for all of this. I know this is unfair, but honestly, Matt is leaving in a few weeks for college and I am extremely angry that my dad had to be such an asshole and couldn't just be nice to him for a few weeks more. I'm also just angry that he has been so hard on Matt our whole lives and can't just let small things go. He could have been a much better dad to Matt and there would have been less fighting and conflict in this family. Well, I started yelling at my dad and defended Matt. I said some things I 50% mean 50% didn't mean. My dad started crying and then he left to go for a walk and is now in his bedroom. He left before I could apologize for some of the terrible things I said, and when he came back we didn't talk. I feel very overwhelmed and emotional right now and I don't know what I'm supposed to do now. My friend said I need to go to my dad's room and apologize to him for saying some things that were completely out of line. But I'm angry still at him and feel conflicted. My brother and dad got in a big fight that resulted in my brother leaving the house. My dad and I started fighting and I said some unfair things that I shouldn't have said. What do I do now? One of the commentators on the story. This argument is not the defining moment of your relationship with him. There are a million other moments that define your relationship before this one ever will. I get really overwhelmed easily and it's hard for me to focus on what I'm trying to say when things are charged. Here are just a few things that you might want to consider going forward when faced with similar situations. What did you want the end result to be? Did your communicate achieve that end result? What needed to have been said to achieve the end result? The 50% you didn't mean, where did that come from? Are these thoughts you've had before? What was the outcome of having said them? What would have happened if you didn't say them? Why are you still angry? Why are you angry at all? Often it's best to remove yourself from the situation ASAP, because nothing gets resolved when there's fighting and shouting. You've seen that firsthand between your father and brother. I find it useful to write a bullet list of what I want to discuss, because I can get too emotional in the moment and get carried away. The bullet list keeps me to task. As for right now, I'd wait until you're calm and talk to your father. Apologize for the things you didn't mean. Apologize for shouting at him if you feel you should. And explain why you were upset and angry. Explain how his actions led to you feeling this way. Another response to the story. From what you wrote, it sounds like there is much more going on than you know. Even you admitted that. You are 15 and miss your brother. But you have no clue what the next weeks will bring to you. There are phones and FaceTime available these days. Your brother can even come and visit, as he most likely does not have everything that he needs for collage. You need to sit down with your father and apologize for what you did not mean. Sit there and talk out the rest of what you mean. Write it out if you have to. You saw that fight from the outside but not the whole thing. Please get some clarification on everything. Your brother is going to be gone for a bit and you will be living alone with your father. This time for you could be pleasant or tense for both of you. You love each other. In the end, you might be able to get your brother for a sit-down before he leaves. Take your time, because you never know when you will get the chance again. Another response to the story. You're still a kid, don't beat yourself up too much over it. Apologize, maybe write a note or letter and slide it under the door, and try not to let your temper get the best of you in future. I was an absolutely horrid teenager and now I try to make up for it all of the time. I'm 32, I was also horrid for a while in my 20s. My dad passed away 9 months ago, but I was the one who got to look after him right before he died, and I know that he knew I loved him and would be okay. You don't always have to like your parents, or anyone for that matter, but as long as they know that you love them, that's what counts. Another response to the story. I read through it. The fact that you said what you said, meant it, regardless of the context. Didn't matter how out of line it was, but you need better self-control. You have to deal with the consequences of telling or saying things that possibly are truthful, and it's a reality of growing up. Hard lesson for you to learn. Sometimes you need to curb your tongue before you destroy something like a family relationship. At the end of the day, family's all you got left to help you in the darkest times of your life, or be there to celebrate the best of times. Time will only work to heal the scars. Another response to the story. Try to apologize when the mood has calmed down. Explain that you were hurt at the entire situation involving your brother and you said things you didn't mean. Also, I wouldn't blame yourself too hard for it. I can understand why you were angry. It must have been hard to be always caught in the middle of two people who seem to be always fighting. Eventually the pot boils over,